Johnson with Intention to Balance, and welcome to Holistic Living, where we are showing people all the different ways that you can live more naturally. So I have a wonderful guest today that I'm really excited to tell you about. So I want to welcome Lori Bestler. She is a mind empowerment coach, among other things. She's a hypnotherapist, stress reduction. She has just a wealth of knowledge in a number of areas. So welcome, Lori.
Thanks, Nance. I'm so happy to be here.
I know. Lori and I have known each other, gosh, I think we met through probably networking or something way back when, and we stayed in touch, and I was just excited for her to share her journey, because she has quite a journey that has led her to what she does now, and she is helping so many people, which we're going to talk more about. But I would love to start there for you, just to kind of go back, like that 10-year period that you talked about, and what you were going through, and how that kind of started you on your journey.
Okay. What if I would go back, several years. You could go back, even most stories begin in our childhood, right? And they begin shaping us, and we're conditioned, and we've got all of these different systems that we learn in and function in. And then in life, as I was moving forward in life, I had numerous different challenges that I was able to work through at certain levels. I struggled in school. I struggled with tests and things like that. And as I move forward, I found that, even though, like, I graduated from high school without ever fully reading one book, one novel, I would read the front, I would read the back, and I would skim through the inside, and then I would take my test, and, I always say, by the grace of God, I would pass, and then those occasions where I didn't, what I would do then was I would do extra credit, so I would be able to get by through life. So it seemed like I always had kind of this keen insight in how to function regardless of some of the challenges. However, when you moved me forward in my life, and once I got to a place where the challenges became bigger and bigger, what I understood about myself, Nancy, was that there was this self-identity that was broken. I always had this inner bully in my brain, and the bully was always telling you that you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not skinny enough. I struggled with eating disorders for 7 years, and so that inner voice of not ever measuring up, not being worthy of my best self or my dreams in life, always was nagging in the background, and I've accomplished a lot of things in life, right? I've got awards, trophies, ribbons, many of them. I've owned and operated 3 businesses, 2 of which I started from scratch. I'm a beauty pageant winner. That was my mom's dream, right?
Right.
So accomplishments, but I bet there's many people, out there watching this, knowing that they can relate to this. What I say is that what your world looks like, what people see of you, the persona of what they see of you on the outside, it's not what's really going on the inside.
Right.
And I was a silent sufferer. And so for years, that silent suffering eventually took over my life. When after I got married, I was married for 20 years, and I was in an abusive marriage, and things were twisted and turned around, and it was mentally and emotionally affecting me. And I didn't know it then. What I know now, I was thinking I was just going crazy. I was thinking there were things wrong with me. I was thinking I wasn't recalling and remembering things. And then that abuse, right? That confusion then started physical ailments. And so I was losing my cognitive processes, just simple words. I was having a hard time having simple conversations. I always felt I was, a good communicator, rather intelligent at being able to connect with people and have conversations, and I was losing that. I was losing my equilibrium. I was driving off the road. I was losing my vision. And the straw that broke the camel's back was one night I had a dream, and I dreamt I was going to die, and I dreamt I was going to die of breast cancer. And there I was 2 weeks later in the doctor's office, because shortly after that dream I had found a lump in my breast and I was having a biopsy, and I said, damn it, my body is speaking to me and I need to listen, and I need to go on this pathway of no longer ignoring what my intuition was telling me and then do something about it. And when I made that commitment and I called it what it was, that's when things started turning around. And then I went to get educated in learning about mind modalities, and that's when I became certified in hypnotherapy and NLP and stress management, and all of that was to heal me,
Right.
to get my head on straight, so to speak. Yet when I was in there taking classes and I would work with the students, I told Devin, the instructor, I said, you know, I've got this brain that works really, really well when I do things and show you I get it, but make me test on a piece of paper, whatever, I just kind of crumble. So can you pass me by showing you I know what to do? And so he said, you're on, you can do that. And so I did, and I would teach the students certain things, and the teacher and the students were like, holy crap, Bestler, that's like really flipping good, because I would up-level it. I couldn't separate what I knew from what I was taught. I morphed it and up-leveled it. And then I was told, oh my gosh, you need to do this for a career. And I went, what does that look like?
Well,
and so
yeah, and isn't that what, you know, most people come from a place of not understanding all the things that are going on with you, not realizing what happens to you, what is it from 6 years old, and kind of shapes what happens to you, but then being in an abusive relationship, how you kind of still think it's your fault. You know, people go through all of that, and then to be able to come to and figure out, I mean, I really love that, because I want to really help people understand that it's okay to feel that way and feel those things about yourself. So many people feel they're not good enough, you know, and you were able to take that and explore yourself. So like, how do you encourage people to do that self-exploration, you know?
Good question, Nance. I really think that we get to a point, I got to a point where I knew I was at a crossroad, right? I knew I was at a turning point and something needed to change. And I knew that change that needed to happen for me was I needed to get questions, I needed to ask questions, I needed to seek outside resources to be able to get help. If you don't know what you don't know. And
Right.
so I needed to do some deeper research once I admitted and I was ready to do something about the problem. Then it was as if you threw out your intention,
Yes,
right?
yep.
And the need, and then you know, God opens those doors, you know, says, all right, you're on that path, you know. And so I knew what I needed to do, and that was get rid of the toxic relationships that I had in my life. I had to divorce not just my husband at that time, that was very, very toxic, very much of a manipulator and turning things around, and everything was my fault, and it was twisted so that he could get the outcomes that he wanted. And so I was on that slippery slope of being deprived and unhappy, and eventually it was almost like my soul was dying, my spirit was dying.
Right.
And then once that happened, then my body was dying, and and so you start seeking, and that's what I did. And what I have learned in that period of time, in that study, I call it my wilderness time. You know, after the divorce, I just said, I'm not listening to anybody. I'm not listening to religion and the church. I'm not listening to the medical establishments, because, you know, they were doing all of these tests. They were telling me all of these things, you know, could be wrong with me. They were even putting me on medication and all of that stuff. And none of it worked. And ultimately, what I came to the understanding was that the root of everything in there was my mind. It was my beliefs, and it was my thoughts, which triggered emotional reactions, you know,
Right.
the stress, fight and flight reaction of our
Yes.
reptilian brain. It gets activated when you're stressed out and in overwhelm,
Right.
you know, and then that trauma changes the chemistry in the body. Eats serotonin, it eats all the dopamine, it eats all the happy, good hormones, and then before you know it, you're depressed and you've got anxiety and you're saying, what's wrong with me? And then the stinking thinking bully comes up ferocious, you know,
Right.
and it's really attacking you at that level. So it's really hard to clarify what it is and get out of it.
Right. And that's why a lot of people get sick and sicker and sicker until it's like, and I loved it, how you do it. I mean, that's what a lot of what you do is help people figure out and get to that place, because that whole admitting it piece is just, you know, like any addiction or anything else that you go through, any trauma, the first step is always to admit that, you know, maybe you're powerless. Is that a good, you know, or is it different than that?
I would say partly it's that. You know, for me, I call it, you know, this turning point, I call it a point of breakdown, right? Where you've been broken down so much, where I remember saying, I can't do it anymore. So did I feel powerless at that point? Yes, my focus was even, I would say it was hopelessness.
Yeah.
And then it was a surrender to something other than myself.
Right.
Because obviously I didn't have the answers. And I knew intuitively, my intuition is huge,
Yeah.
and it guides me. But all these other people out here were saying, you can't listen to that, and what if it's, you know, what if it's the darkness or whatever, and then it scares you, and then
Right.
you doubt it, and then you don't listen to it, and it had always served me well. And so I said, I'm done with that world. I divorced my ex-husband, I had to divorce my parents at a level, I divorced the church at a certain level, you know, I just had to get that world away from me.
And trust yourself.
And trust my own intuition and listen to that. And then that started developing the building blocks. And in it, that's when the magic started happening in truth, because I'd listen and then I'd act and then I'd go, wow, holy crap, the world is opening up for me. Doors are opening. I'd get insight. I'd get, you know, symbolic messages. I mean, all of this stuff was like, this is no coincidence, you know? This stuff is really happening. Miracles are really out there. And when you connect to that source and that energy, you know, and you up level your energy, because
Right.
now you're on a higher plane of energy frequency. So now you're ready for more things to enter in. But when you're in that stuck state of breakdown,
Yeah.
you can't have breakthroughs. Right?
And when you started learning all these different things to help yourself, then at what point did you decide to share them with other people and get into more of the profession that you're doing now?
Well, you know, weird things would happen because the students and my teacher said, you need to do this for a career.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, hypnosis, right? What is that? And being raised in a religion that they were saying, you know, some people back then, I mean, keep in mind, this is 14 years ago, almost 15 years ago, where people were saying that hypnosis is demonic, you know what I mean? You get in people's heads and that kind of a thing, right? And so they were telling me to do this, and then I had what I call inner parts conflict. One part of me that was in the now said, woohoo, let me get this out there, man.
Right.
People need it.
Yeah.
And then the other part of me that was my lower self was afraid. It was afraid of rejection. The people pleaser was afraid, right? The perfectionist in me was afraid, what if I failed? What if it didn't work, right? So I had all of that toxic thinking, patterning from conditioning still very strong within me, even though I learned the tools and I was working through it.
Yeah.
That functionality was still working behind the scenes, and I was rising up out of it. So I had to ask, I had to question. I always needed confirmation, and then I had a confirmation as I was seeking, and I went, where would I work? What would that look like? What would an office look like? And my higher self said, just go see what other hypnotherapists are doing. Look at their
Perfect.
offices. And that's
Right.
what I did. And then I called somebody and I had a vision. And in my vision, I seen something, you know, in a dream. And then when I met this gal, exactly what I had seen in the dream was there. And I went, how does that stuff happen? I don't know. But I'm listening. And so then I decided to start my practice and dive in. What do I have to lose, you know?
Right. So you started seeing people individually, and that was how it initially started, and with hypnotherapy or other modalities. Like I know you neurolinguistic practitioner too, NLP, as a lot of people say it easier. Is that a word?
Yeah, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And so what I did is that I had to name my business, and I said Mindscapes Unlimited, right? Because I really believe that we need to continually rethink our reality. We are not here to stop. We are here to evolve, right? We're constantly learning a lesson and peeling a layer and go deeper and deeper and deeper, right? Kind of like the onion. And so that's that process. And while we are doing that, you're continually learning new things and changing things, right? And so it's okay to start and not be totally perfect and ready, because I don't think you're ever ready and done.
Right.
You'll never do it, There's no such thing as done.
Well, and that's boring too, in a way, because self-growth to me is always a beautiful thing. It's a forever ongoing process till the day you go.
Keeps it exciting, right?
Right.
So I was Mindscapes Unlimited, that was the name of my business, and then I called it Mindscapes Unlimited Hypnosis Coaching Center. People got spooked by the name hypnosis.
Oh,
right.
Yep.
So when I would go to networking groups, I could just see there were some people that were kind of like, oh,
What's
you know what I mean?
Do to me?
And then I would have the people that, that didn't understand it would come in from religious perspectives and saying, are you sure that's not really a good thing to do, and that kind of a thing. And I even had rejection of a church that I was in, and the church leaders, even though I was a very prayerful woman and we had major breakthroughs, in prayers that we had in the church, they said, no, you can't. They told one person not to work with me because that's hypnosis and that's not a healthy practice. And I went, that's my own church that knew me very, very well. They know that I don't have this. I have a discernment of spirits, I don't have that. I don't have that in me, that personality or whatever you want to call it. And so that moved me out of that sphere, at a certain level. And then the beauty in that is then it gave me more freedom, really, to move past it. So I did get rid of hypnosis word in my business name.
Yes.
And that's when I called it Mind Empowerment Coaching. Right? Because people went, that's great. I'm not seeing a therapist, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't have to feel guilty, like I'm getting help. I'm going to a coach because it's really helped me set goals. And I'm all about my word, who I am is empowerment.
Yeah.
Really help empower people to be their best self possible.
Right. And some of that even involved, I still remember when you would help people like quit smoking or even do things like that, right?
Yes.
That's
because it was really hypnosis focused,
Yeah.
and I would pull that in. And so now I do find that there's less of that. I'm not attracting as much. People call me from time to time, but what they really love doing is working with more of a soulpreneur, right? A higher level thinker person that really wants to make a difference in the world. They're change agents, they're smart, they're intelligent visionaries, and from time to time we get stuck. Right? And in that stuckness, we're struggling, and we lose ourselves, and we lose our direction, we lose our self-identity. And then in that point, I love to step in and then say, okay, let's bring that back, but so much more. Let's see why you're there and the lessons that you learned, right? And then let's take all of that and then transcend the past and present so that your future is what I call building a bestseller life. So I'm all about from breakdown to breakthrough so you can live that bestseller life.
Yes,
right?
I love that. And primarily you work with women, but you have worked with all ages and genders and things too, right?
I have.
Yeah.
Yep, I have. I would say that these days, a lot of the people that come to me, they know they've got negative thinking and they're stuck. And I work with a lot of people that, they have anxiety, right? A lot of those people that come to me have anxiety. I can't deal with a clinically diagnosed issue like anxiety, right? I can't say I'm an expert in that, but what I can say is I'm an expert in stress management, and I understand the connection of thoughts, beliefs, and emotions very well, right? And I know how we get in those mind traps, so I can help people understand how stress functions and then how to get them to recalibrate their mind, reframe that thinking, calm the body, right? So that when you calm that nervous system, the mind and body can work together much more effectively, and the body then heals, and then the mind then sees things from a higher reality and perspective, and then you can start peeling that layer and then step up to another reality that is even better.
I love that. And when we talked the other day, you were talking about going from your worst day, to really creating your new future, your best day. And I love that thought, because that's what I think a lot of people get stuck, don't they, in that worst day syndrome. And it's hard to even foresee getting to that. And you said it's just more of that refocusing the mind, right?
It is. And what I find is a pattern, Nance, a pattern of when you talk about the worst day, it almost seems like people in life that get stuck, that are below the line, right, where life is just a big struggle, right, like mine used to be, right? What happens is when you're in that realm, that worst day, it's always a new worst day.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so in my working with people, for a month or two or whatever it is, a period of time, I always find it interesting that when the client will come in, they will say, this is the worst day I've ever had. This is the worst shape I've ever been in. And then I would have heard their stories from in their past, and I'm going, I'm not thinking that's the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Right.
You know what I mean? Your brain believes the lies it tells itself, but it will regurgitate the now and say, this is terrible, and now here are all of the reasons why, and then it proves it. I always talk about higher self, lower self, right? Lower self will prove why today is the worst day, and it has enough reasons and proof.
Right.
It can prove it, right? But I can take that client and I can say, okay, let's leave that there. We'll look at it. Don't ignore it. It has a voice. It needs to be felt through. It needs to be understood. Usually it's shaped by something way in the past that it didn't have the ability to see things through a wise mind, right? And so it's stuck there. And then I move them into the future. I move them into a different reality. And then I let them feel that reality, and then I let them understand, based on what you've told me on the higher level perspective, you've had a great day here, right? And part of your day today is probably the best day you've ever had, because you just told me, such and such happened. You just told me that you just, accomplished something you'd never done before in your life, and you were so proud of yourself, teaching people that you never thought you could teach, just amazing things,
That's so fun.
Yeah, you got to transition them.
So how long, is it different with everybody, how long it takes to go from, does it depend on how stuck they are to getting to where they want to be, or, because I know you do retreats and things like that too. I just wondered how quickly can people expect to notice a difference, like getting rid of that stinking thinking and all of that. Is there any kind of time frame, or how does that
Everybody's different.
Yeah.
I use the analogy of ruts. Some people have neural pathways that have shaped that problem, and it's now automatized, meaning it's running behind the scenes. It's on automatic pilot, right?
Yeah.
You're really not even in control of it. You think you're made that decision, but that decision was made before your conscious mind even knew it.
Right.
And then it just kind of catches up. Right, and so I forgot what you
Well, I
just
just
asked
think
me.
it's like anything else. People want it now, and they want, like, they've had all these years of dealing with this, and then all of a sudden they want to get fixed, like right now. And that's what I just want to help people understand, that sometimes to get to where you want to go and to have your best future, it takes time. You can't just
How long?
get there
It does.
in a minute.
It does.
Or one session or whatever.
Exactly. I will have people come in and they will say they've been dealing with this thing all their life, or since they're 8 and they now see me in their 50s. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And they're going to think, I have one session. Let me have one session, and one session, all of those problems are going to be gone. And so that's what I was dealing with when I said I was more of a hypnotherapist, right? And I said, no, I'm selling people short. I need to develop, because I'm more of a educator professional, I need to educate people to understand why that system has caught them up in traps, right? And then once they understood the anatomy of a thought, once they understood their own beliefs and mind traps, then they could be much wiser in not just dealing with this problem. they will have a higher level of looking at the problem from a higher perspective, and then being able to catch it and say,
Right.
I'm aware of what that is. I am not going down that slippery slope. So I wanted to empower people to be able to be self-aware and to catch themselves in that slippery slope, so that the highs are great, but the lows aren't so deep. You know, so many people that I work with are like really highs and lows, like a roller coaster ride.
Right.
And I wanted to make it more balanced and more tolerable, so you enjoy life more
Right.
that way.
So it would have to be a connection with you to like almost report in, like, oh, this is how it goes, and to get to that place that you're, you know, really paying attention to what the good things are that are going, so you can stay there and go there again.
That's why I have a program.
Yeah.
That's why I don't do a one and done session.
Yeah.
No such thing. I have a program that is on a month by month or four session basis. So I see my clients once a week, 90-minute sessions, 4 weeks in a row. And then, you know, we set the goal in the beginning, and then in the fourth session, we look at what all of those problems they were experiencing were. We measure the success and see what has changed and what is better, and then we determine the next 4 sessions. Did we fix the problem, right? Some people it's fixed, right, in 4 sessions, and then do we want to continue on for another 4 sessions, right? So I will say probably 60% of the people I work with will go on to, I have modules, and they will go on to the second module to be able to progress, because they've seen significant benefits, right?
Yep.
Because you're not going to stick with me if you don't like
Right.
me, obviously, right?
Right.
Right.
Or
And
seeing benefits, yes.
Yeah, and seeing benefits, and so then they move on to the second level, and then they up level from there. A small percentage of people will work with me for 6 months to a year, and they will also periodically come back in for what I call a tune-up. So when life kicks you in the rear, sometimes you need to come in for a tune-up, because you get caught in that stinking thinking mode again, and you need somebody to say, okay, let's bring you back to perspective again. I want to be
Nice.
that resource that is that grounding, centered, encouraging, and empowering resource for people to keep them on that path of up-leveling themselves.
Nice. Well, you know, this goes by so fast whenever we're talking, so in our last minute here, I just want to make sure and talk about, I know you do retreats and things, and at the end of the show, we're going to show some things that you have coming up, and even a special that people can get 50% off of one of your audios, that you have some really good audios already that people can just download and listen to, and the retreats you do for more like a group of 10 and things like that, and really
Yes.
just, because some people would rather do, I think, a group session and explore it that way. And then the fun people you get to meet all together has got to be a beautiful thing.
Exactly. Yeah, women's retreats are for women that really want to have a long 3-day connected opportunity to do a deep dive, figure out more of a focus and where they want to go, and for the year. And that's always in February. So
Perfect.
it lands people, in a really good place for that.
Great. Well, I'm so glad we had this time together, and I hope it's clear for everybody out there of what you're teaching, but you can always get in touch with Lori at her mindscapesunlimited.com, which you'll see at the end of the show. And I just think you're helping so many people. I know you have so many great testimonials as well, so I appreciate you.
Thanks
So
Nancy.
much. And everybody, thanks for joining. I love to say, and I would love to end this show, that all we do and teach here is a beautiful thing. So thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.